me! Stay the fuck down!
I gotta say, I'm surprised you made it this far. It'd be a shame if something happened to you now.
You killed Mia. Now do me and finish the job.
Resident Evil Village is about to hit us full in the face with vampire and werewolf nonsense. And while it may not make sense at first glance just how this fits in the normal story of secret biological experiments gone terribly, terribly wrong, we'll just have to sit tight and wait for the full story. In the meantime, from May 1st to May 9th, you can play 1 full hour of the castle and first village segments, so get it while you can. With the release of Resident Evil 7, we hit a massive tone and perspective shift. Literally. The first-person perspective lends itself well to horror games, as you've seen in Alien Isolation and others, and this is no exception. I have no real issues with the series being in first person, as I find it aids to the raw horror aspects more, something that the series has been sort of lacking on from its inception. Survival horror is one of my favorite genres of all time, but we haven't really hit any level of fear outside of being woefully underprepared for a fight. Just make sure you raise your mouse sensitivity so you can actually participate in one of these fights and survive. But I digress. Resident Evil Village is Resident Evil 8, and while I feel that it also technically counts as another Resident Evil Revelations game, it is the next major mainline entry to the series. You play once again as Ethan Winters from Resident Evil 7, whose daughter has been kidnapped by the big, sexy lady herself, Lady Dimitrescu. And of course, it is your job to go and rescue her, like you did with your wife in the last game. And the jump that Capcom has taken from the rural south to an Eastern European setting is the perfect place to start for such an increase in quality and graphical fidelity. The game looks absolutely gorgeous, with and without ray tracing on, and runs really very stable. I only encountered any large frame drops around particle effects, namely in the locust surrounding one of the witches, and that was only when she got incredibly close for an attack against me. As a note, while I'm writing this, I have recorded and played on an RTX 3070, so your mileage may vary. The textures and lighting in the RE engine really shine here, as you can get up close and personal with everything thanks to the camera, and the improvements seen from Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes can be seen here full force, up front, 100%. The environments feel incredibly real, and the level design is made so you can hardly get lost, at least until some major backtracking sections will come up for when you're trying to clear each room later in the game when you have all the keys or other progression items unlocked. That's just typical Resident Evil though. But each room in the castle is lavishly decorated, and the village outside feels lived in, despite being attacked by werewolves, and just having a bunch of small farmhouses painted with snow. The demo's structure itself feels like standard Resident Evil fare, going through these environments to find items to help you fight enemies until you stumble across the more mandatory progression items. Combat itself is a little less stiff than it is in Resident Evil 7, and will be much more varied. We've seen Ethan with a sniper rifle in the trailer, so we can only expect to see a lot more weapons and a lot of different varieties through the course of our adventure. If you're a fan of Resident Evil, you'll definitely feel at home in Resident Evil Village. And that is an especially big point to make for this game. You can directly compare this new release to its most similar analog and fan-favorite entry of the series, Resident Evil 4. The structure of the story and set pieces will likely resemble that of Resident Evil 4 in some way or another, and compared to the 8-ish hour story length in Resident Evil 7, we'll probably get a game as long as Resident Evil 4, and that came out 15 years ago, and that is an excellent thing that we'll be getting that again now. Letting this game and its setting stew and linger on us as long as possible should only be doing it a service. Other Resident Evil games that I play can be beaten about 3 or 4 hours, if I'm trying to collect most of the pickups at least, and I get a ton of replay value out of them. But I wish they were longer, and Resident Evil Village might just give us that in spades. And it's good that we're getting our money's worth of Resident Evil Village now. Since the Capcom leaks that came out a couple weeks ago, we know their projected release schedule through to 2024, and included in that list is, in fact, the rumored Resident Evil 4 remake that we have been clamoring for so very long. While this is likely not just a tech demo for that game, I can only imagine how the design here is going to influence a fully rebuilt Resident Evil 4. Upscaled to 4K, new textures, new voice acting, new models, everything that we can expect can be found in some sort of a beta here. And that is a very good thing. This is a very good, very polished demo, letting Capcom continue to flex on us with their incredible RE engine. And if the real game is anything like this, it'll absolutely be worth the price of admission. And if not, it's just another Resident Evil game, and I will still play it regardless. Resident Evil Village comes out on May 7th, so be prepared to fight off some vampires, some werewolves, and whatever else it decides to throw at you for its entire runtime. I just really wish the merchant came back properly so we could hear him go, "Stranger," once again.